There's probably no one better to get us started in this fantastic day than Brandon Staglin. In fact, Brandon is the source of this year's Summit's tagline, "From Bench to Bedside to a Better World." He's going to speak to us about conquering serious psychiatric illness, how science, love, and agency empower recovery. And I want to take just a moment to introduce Brandon for those of you who don't know him. He's the president of One Mind, a Rutherford, California-based mental health nonprofit. Brandon is one of those people, perhaps more than almost anyone, who's been able to channel his deep experience in communications, advocacy, and recovery to have an impact on brain health research and to begin to focus that research on what it will take to heal lives. He serves on the advisory councils for the World Economic Forum, the NIMH, the California Mental Health Services Authority's Help at Hand program. He's a part of the Stanford University's Prodrome and Early Psychosis Program Network, and he's a member of the Stability Network. He earned a Master's of Science in Healthcare Administration in Interprofessional Leadership from UCSF just a couple of years ago in 2018, and has a BA from Dartmouth College. Among Brandon's recent work, he successfully advocated for the growth of data-driven, networked, continuously improving prevention and early intervention services for youth facing serious psychiatric illness. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping he'll be able to tell us about One Mind's Aspire program, which I think you'll find is a really fascinating way to increase both quality treatment access and recovery rates for people who are struggling with serious psychiatric illness. Brandon has received a bunch of awards for his advocacy for brain health and brain health research. Just to name a few: the Schizophrenia International Research Society's President's Award, the Lifetime Achievement Voice Award from SAMHSA, and the Clifford W. Beers Award from Mental Health America. I'm just thinking about this, Brandon. I think I've known you for about 15 years altogether. And during that time, it's just been an inspiration to watch you make so many things happen, both here in California and across the nation. Recently, as you recall, and I interviewed you for a book I'm writing on recovery, I must say I came away just utterly inspired, more than almost anyone. You've taught me the meaning of this famous quote from C.S. Lewis, which many of you will know, which says that every disability conceals a vocation, if only we can find it, which will turn the necessity to glorious gain. You have taken your lived experience with recovery from schizophrenia and turned this to the glorious gain of so many people struggling with this disorder. It's just an honor to have you launch this year's summit, and I really look forward to your comments. Thanks so much for being with us.
I was muted. Tom, thank you so much for the very kind and generous introduction. It's been an honor to know you as well for the last 15 years, and I've been inspired by your work, and your work has kind of guided the focus of my work in many ways. So thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate it. I want to thank all of you who are watching today for participating in today's great summit. And I want to thank Kunal Ghosh and Pushkar Joshi and everyone at Inscopix for inviting me to speak today. I also want to express my gratitude to Inscopix for their support of our Rising Star Award program with our technological supplement to our awards. They're enabling the scientists we fund to do their work more efficiently and effectively than they could do in any other way. So thank you very much, Inscopix. So now let's get started. I'll share my screen. Okay, we are, as has been said, we are living through a stupendously challenging time. The pandemic, climate change, and political contentiousness are multiplying depression and anxiety throughout our society amazingly, hugely. In fact, they've doubled in the last year. Now mental health challenges afflict about half of our population. Society is struggling. But I like to see challenges as opportunities. As has been said, I'm Brandon Staglin. I'm president of One Mind, and a schizophrenia survivor, and as such, I understand that brain health research is critical to recovery from my own experience. But then again, so is love. And just as much, so is agency. That is engagement in life throughout the community. Today, I'll describe how I learned these principles, how my organization, One Mind, is employing them and amplifying them to empower recovery throughout society. I hope you'll join us. My story starts on a September evening in 1990 in Lafayette, California. Green leaves were turning red, geese were flying across the horizon, and college students like me were just beginning their fall semesters. As I gazed out my bedroom window, I saw none of this. I was trapped within the vortex of my thoughts and feelings, hallucinations and delusions. That beautiful world outside was passing me by. I'd experienced a schizophrenic break just 2 months before, and its horrors were still whirling within me, echoing louder with time. Why hadn't the meds my doctor prescribed helped my mind feel like mine again? Why couldn't I feel whole again? I sorely missed the person I had been, strong enough to reach for the stars just 2 months before. I thought a lot about the things I missed back at Dartmouth College, the good friends I spent time with, the fascinations of learning principles of human and primate behavior and imaginary sciences. And I thought a lot about the endearing chimpanzee family I'd been studying that summer as a volunteer research assistant at the Oakland Zoo. I doubted I'd ever experience any of those joys again, and the doubt was slowly crushing my will to go on. Now the only thing that made consistent sense was my certainty that demons lurked behind every corner, behind every bush, every tree. They were eagerly waiting for me to make the slightest moral mistake so they could tear my soul from my body and take it down to hell where they'd dance on it for the rest of eternity. I was extremely afraid at every moment this could happen, and my constant hypervigilance was sapping my strength. I knew I couldn't handle this fight much longer. But sometimes flashes of relief would appear, like I was close to heaven. I reveled in those moments, and I began to wonder, what if I could seize one of those heavenly moments and end my life? Would I then spend eternity in heaven? The warm calm of that evening settled within me, and I knew it was time. As I'd heard of elderly folks dying quickly when their spouses had passed away due to a broken heart, I knew that I too could choose to go to sleep and not wake up. I took a deep breath and got my sleeping bag out of my closet. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Good night, Shannon. I called toward the kitchen. I'm going to go sleep out on the lawn again tonight. Okay, Brandon. Okay, good night. But be sure to come in if you get cold, my mom called back. As I spread my sleeping bag across the grass, my thoughts began to race. Did I really want to do this? I knelt down. Wasn't there some reason to go on? I nestled into the cozy folds of the bag and gazed up at the stars overhead. And the galaxy's glow there, once such a solace and a source of inspiration, now glared down at me. Lying there alone in the dark, I feared my dreams were dead. But the fresh scent of the green grass stirred, and it stirred my curiosity for life. And the answers began to come to me then, and the answer was yes. All that summer there'd been a spectacle I wanted to see. As I'd read about in Jane Goodall's books, male chimps would sometimes transform themselves into miniature hurricanes in what was called a dominance display. They'd bellow, beat their chests, shake branches, throw sticks, and charge headlong down hills at their opponents. All this served to inspire awe in other chimps who were onlooking. This was exactly the kind of ferocity with which I wanted to take on my life. How exciting it would be to watch a dominance display firsthand. Under the stars that evening, I decided I would return to the zoo the very next day to see what I could see. The universe still held endless potential for beautiful discovery, and I had the power to make those discoveries happen. I renewed my vow to keep learning and growing, and never to let senseless delusions crush my quest to find sense in this mysterious frontier that we call life. This was the beginning of my recovery, and the rebirth of my faith in science to open doors for people. Discovery held the key to a better life. I got up and walked back inside, my commitment to life renewed. Over the next 6 months, recovery was like climbing a rocky trail, slow going with many setbacks. The day came again when depression nearly overtook me again. My meds weren't working well enough, and I began to doubt that they would. I'd taken to shuffling around the house. It felt better than sitting still with my thoughts. One morning, I wandered into the kitchen where my dad was eating breakfast. I barely noticed him. Wrapped in my own private pain, I just stared at the floorboards. I closed my eyes and began to sway. That's when I heard something deeper than I'd heard before. There's a lot of love coming from here, Brandon. I opened my eyes and looked at my dad. I saw there in the steadiness of his gaze that he meant what he said. This was a far cry from the standard conversations we've been having up until that time, which he routinely urged me to take my meds. Moreover, it was the most profound thing about love I'd ever heard him say to me. I knew then that my illness had impacted him deeply. I felt simultaneously embarrassed my weakness had hurt him, and relieved that he loved me anyway. It hit me then that I hadn't felt love for a long time. I was too wrapped up in my illness to feel that kind of connection. But I longed to feel and return that love, to feel and be a part of my family again. That morning saw the beginning of love as a primary value in my life. The recognition that I had of the power of love to give meaning to life gave me strength to keep pursuing my recovery. I dedicated myself to taking my meds rigorously because of what they could do. I set alarms on my watch to beep every 6 hours to remind me to take them. And every week in which my voices had gotten quieter and the world around me had gotten clearer, I looked forward to visits with my psychiatrist, and we would celebrate together with enthusiastic high fives. As I kept walking on the rocky road of recovery, my parents founded One Mind in 1995 with their very first music festival for brain health. Inspired by my family's experience with my schizophrenia and recovery, today One Mind's mission is to accelerate collaborative research and advocacy to enable all individuals facing brain health challenges to build healthy and productive lives. Over the years, as I learned from One Mind supporters about the huge and deep extent of the brain health crisis in our society and the massive suffering that occurs throughout, I decided to join the organization, first as communications director and now as president. And since then, I've shared my story publicly to inspire hope for recovery and support for the science that is making that recovery possible for so many people. And this work has indeed opened generous hands. In 25 years, One Mind has raised and leveraged $480 million to apply to programs to advance science, services, and society. Today, I'm grateful and proud to be leading an amazing team as I bring my values and experience to bear to accelerate brain health for all. I believe that if all young people facing serious psychiatric illness could access care like what I received, they too would have a splendid shot at recovery. Care that employs state-of-the-science medicine, rallies the support of their families to nurture them with love and support, and engages the patient's agency through community involvement can indeed help young people to build healthy and productive lives. In a sense, care that applies principles of open minds, open hearts, and open hands can constitute a gold standard to empower recovery. I've committed myself to ensuring that all young people have access to such gold standard care in the name of healthy lives and a healthy world. Toward this end, One Mind has launched the Aspire Initiative, Accelerating Serious Psychiatric Illness Recovery. Aspire is founded on a belief that I believe everyone here holds. All young people facing serious psychiatric illness deserve a chance to heal, strengthen, and build their best life. We will increase access to care, and we will increase the success of care. Toward this end, we've set 2 bold goals to achieve across the United States by 2040. 1, to increase access for youth with early serious psychiatric illness to gold standard care to 100%, and to increase the recovery rates from serious psychiatric illness to 75%, a tripling from what it is now. As One Mind tackles the serious psychiatric illness crisis, we aim to succeed by convening and supporting strategic partnerships guided by principles for success. The principles are arising from our values, from the evidence of our experience, and from the consensus of experts such as our scientific advisory board. Principles are open minds. We continuously learn from lived experience and also from the discoveries of science. Open hearts. We collaborate inclusively, making sure the viewpoints and perspectives of all stakeholders are honored and incorporated. Open hands. We share resources, data, and knowledge to change lives for the better as expeditiously as possible. These principles work. We've implemented them to engage and sustain support to drive meaningful results. Now, One Mind and our partners are applying these principles to pursue these goals with a 4-pronged, synergistic strategy to expand and improve early care. The 4 link points of our strategy are education. It's important that people understand they can access care for the challenges they're experiencing and not feel stigmatized so that they don't, not feel stigmatized so that they will access care. Early detection and care. It's important that people can access care as early as possible. Science has shown this, so they have the best chance of recovery. Innovation in diagnostics and treatments. Current treatments have troublesome side effects and don't always address the most important challenges people face for recovery. We need to improve this. And real-world practice and evaluation. We will make sure that the innovations that we discover and implement are working and that we can iteratively improve upon them through services research. All in the name of prevention and recovery. I'll give examples of partnerships we are operating and have joined to attain these strategic objectives. For the education objective, for example, we are sponsoring the Wellbeings Initiative, as Tom mentioned, a PBS Ken Burns documentary and 3-year nationwide online campaign illuminating youth mental health and offering resources to build youth resilience. This campaign has been very successful, so far garnering about 1.9 billion media impressions. For early detection and care, our Strong 365 division is operating a campaign and community outreach program to connect youth at risk for serious psychiatric illness to early care. It just deployed all across New York State. We're very proud of this program. For innovation, we are partners in the Accelerating Medicines Partnership for Schizophrenia, which just launched about a month ago. It's an international NIH-led public-private partnership testing biomarkers to enable the development of medications for the earliest stages of serious psychiatric illness. And for evaluation and practice, we have spearheaded it and are funding the learning healthcare network across California called EpiCal, which is part of the National EpiNet program that the NIMH operates. This is a California-wide learning healthcare network sharing data and ideas to improve services and access to care through research. The ambition of Aspire faces daunting challenges, but I work with scientists like you for over 20 years, and I know you have the power to make those discoveries happen. You are courageous, you are curious, you are compassionate, and you care. Indeed, you have an open mind, heart, and hands. This makes for an unstoppable combination. How do I know? You are curious. You delight in discovering new knowledge as a scientist, knowledge that can be harnessed to serve the good. You are courageous. You've dedicated your life to a career that will hit many dead ends in its pursuit of knowledge, but you press on nonetheless. You are compassionate. Your choice of health science as your discipline is rooted in the drive to help people who struggle, and knowing that your science is helping them warms your heart. And you care. You work hard for years to achieve results for patients. You are making a tremendous difference. Thank you. And yes, millions of lives are unraveling even as we speak. For the pandemic, up to 1 in 4 young people was experiencing a psychiatric challenge. As I mentioned, psychiatric challenges have doubled in our society over the last year, with youth being particularly hard hit. But there is hope. A young friend of mine has experienced bad life setbacks due to his schizophrenia before the pandemic, loss of his job, loss of his home, loss of his freedom. But now, and with the pandemic, the isolation of the shelter in place has set him back as well. But now, with the caring support of his family, science-based medicine, and community involvement to build his agency, he's starting to get back on his feet again. I'm extraordinarily proud of him. Yes, there is hope, and we know what we can do. Let's start together, right here, right now, to help him and the millions of others at risk. Let's start together. I invite you to take the Aspire Pledge. No matter who you are, you can do this. Scientist, advocate, family member, person with lived experience. Please visit onemind.org/aspire. And if the link is shared in the chat, please, you can click on that to go there. I aspire to give all young people facing serious psychiatric illness the opportunity to heal, strengthen, and build their best life. I aspire to make recovery from serious psychiatric illness commonplace, as it should be. I aspire to collaborate with One Mind toward reaching these goals by 2040. By providing my name and email address, I join the Aspire community. Once you join, we'll contact you to seek to open a dialogue, and we'll send you updates on Aspire's progress and opportunities to collaborate. As we have seen, research partnerships that leverage open minds, hearts, and hands can generate amazing success for patient recovery. The patients can heal as we speak. Your partnership will help us to change lives. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brandon. That's a great way to get us started today. I really appreciate your remarks, and I love the focus on outcomes, the Aspire Pledge, and the 4 C's, which I don't think I've heard before, of curiosity, courage, compassion, care. Those are really great principles to work towards and to work by. So it's been great to get us started. Just looking at the clock, I want to make sure we stay on time, but we also want to encourage people to send in questions so we have an opportunity to do that. Let me just take 30 seconds before we start our next with our next panelist to ask you, because I can't resist. There's going to be a meeting later today where the president-elect will announce his new health team. If you were going to be sitting down with the new health team for the transition, what's the one thing you would want them to know from your experience?
I want them to know that there is a model of care which employs the principles of open minds, hearts, and hands that is extraordinarily successful at helping young people to recover from serious psychiatric illness. It's called coordinated specialty care. It was validated by a National Institute of Mental Health study, which you started, thank you, Tom, called RAISE back in the mid-2010s. And it shows that it's twice as effective at improving symptoms and 1.5 times effective at improving symptoms, twice as effective at improving quality of care, and extraordinarily effective at helping young people back on their feet to jobs, school, and work, and relationships again. This can be expanded across our country with better insurance coverage through Medicaid and through private insurance. And we hope that the government will get behind this and help to expand it and continue to improve it across our nation.
Amen. Thank you.